Manjari is not just an entrepreneur, she is a magician who turns dreams into reality. With a heart as fertile as the farmland, she empowers and mind as sharp as the latest technology she employs. She stands as a testament to the power of blending business with benevolence. Her journey, a tapestry woven with threads of resilience, innovation, and a deep rooted desire to uplift, serve as an inspiration to all of us. Under her astute leadership, FarmDidi has not only grown into a flourishing enterprise, but also ignited a revolution, a movement that champions inclusivity, sustainability, and the indomitable spirit of rural entrepreneurs. Today, we dive deep into her story, her insights, and her vision that's sculpting a brighter, more inclusive future for all of us. So, fasten your seatbelts and prepare to be inspired, enlightened, and awestruck by the journey of this superwoman, Manjari. Manjari, thank you for agreeing to be with us today. So, I will start with a very simple question. Uh, I wanted to know that if, say, I am a fan of the world of superheroes. If let's assume Farm Didi were a superhero, what would be its superpower according to you?
I think its superpower would be ability to make any rural woman into an entrepreneur. I think that's
Mm-hmm,
a very special superpower we have.
mm-hmm,
Ability to voice over the situation and the current facts and figures about how rural women, despite putting a lot of efforts into agriculture, into water conservation, indigenous vegetables conservation, and so many things. Her work is always underestimated, and I think in a fair bit we are wherever I get the chance, I voice over it.
mm-hmm.
And another superpower of Farm Didi would be ability to create amazing food recipes, pickles and chutneys, which only dadis and
Right,
nanis dadis can create. So through the
exactly.
magic of Didis, we are able to bring back those recipes and food products to the end consumers.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Very nice. What inspired you to start this Farm Didi?
The inspiration is rural women only.
Mm-hmm,
So when I was studying in IIM Calcutta, I participated in a case study competition organized by Bihar government, where the government had invited students across India to study various development areas like health, education, women empowerment was one of the topic, and we were supposed to stay in rural hinterland of Bihar for 15 days and come up with a report directly to Mr. Nitish Kumar to talk about what is the current state and what should be the next steps for the government. So that time I spent some time in Bihar, in villages like Patna, Begusarai, Khagaria, various other districts, and I saw there were so many villages where only women were there and men had moved to cities for work. And despite taking care of entire household work, agricultural activities, fetching water, taking care of families, they were still asking me, Didi, हम और क्या कर सकते हैं? And I was a student and I used to give some naive answers to them. And though I joined AT Carney after MBA, however, that question ki Didi hum aur kya kar sakte hain was far more impactful than
right.
solving for CEOs problems, making some decks and updating footnotes.
Yes, so building on same lines, can you share a pivotal moment like that led you to embark on this entrepreneurship journey, and maybe like the things which led you to start this thing initially?
Okay, so one thing was clear that I wanted to work for rural women and create a sustainable business model. I was very much inspired by the work of Bandhan Bank in
Mm-hmm.
Bangladesh, sorry, Grameen Bank in
Ramen
Bangladesh,
brand,
Bandhan Bank in India.
right?
I've seen PAB India case study very
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
closely, Jaipur Rug Foundation, and things like that. And
mm-hmm.
especially Lijjat Papad and Amul. I think they
Right.
are one of my major heroes. So I was very much clear. I wanted to create a sustainable business model with both profit and people at the core of both as the core priority of the organization. So first, my hypothesis was, can I give them loans? Because if I give them loans, they can become, they can start some entrepreneurial allied activity. But
Right.
that did not work out for me.
Mm-hmm.
They were like, दीदी हम लोन मिल जाता है but marketing नहीं मिलती है, and it came out from various interviews, because there are so many public banks, private bank, NBFCs and
Right.
government institutions that operate, and they can easily get loans. However, the major problem was they took loans and they did not know how to sell the product. For example, one Didi bought papad making machine, but she did not know how to package it, how to sell it, at what price point. During only MBA only we get to understand, right? 4 Ps, 5 Ps, for these kind of things. And these were trying to find out the answers. And it's very difficult, honestly, for them to know all of that and even understand distributor margin, at what price point should I sell it to retailer. And then retailer will say कि अपने को क्या टक्का मिलेगा, which Didi might not understand, right?
Right.
So those things were missing, and I stayed in villages for like 6 months, honestly. And then one thing it was clearly coming out was, the food of rural India is amazing. I think when
Right.
we eat fresh, the taste is very, very different. And I think we have forgotten how the real food tastes like in urban setup. And at the
Right.
same time, managing the quality of the product,
Mm-hmm.
scaling a product manufacturing, these who understand how to make this product, because that is their traditional wisdom. But how to scale it up in terms of best practices of food manufacturing, that they were not aware, right? And then
Right.
marketing and sales is a very difficult game. How many people are being able to create successful brands, right? It's very difficult, no? So that's why I understood was ki I have to create a brand and
Mm-hmm.
manage the quality, train my Didi so that they would be able to develop food at scale, right? And at the
Mm-hmm.
same time, consumer get a safety compliant food product to eat, right? So solving
Mm-hmm.
for all those challenges, and then again Amul and Lijjat Papad was the best case in point for me to study and see how they have leveraged the network of human capital and developed great brands. Like
Right.
Lijjat
Right.
Papad have empowered more than 50,000 women who make those papads. Amul
Mm-hmm.
is a great story. I think it's amazing
Right.
story
Yeah.
altogether.
Yeah. So according to you, how Form Didi will contribute to the inclusivity of the society? So as you pointed out, you brought in a lot of rural uh, uh, women who दीदीज of Bihar, right?
Yeah.
And आज जैसे आप बोल रहे थे कि दीदी हम और क्या कर सकते हैं, right? So
Mm-hmm.
according to you, how it brings it to, means how do you bring these people to the platform? How, yes.
So currently we are operating in Maharashtra and we have done an MOU with
Okay.
the government as well.
Okay.
So when there are a group of women called self-help group women, it's
SHG.
basically SHGs, right? So
Yeah.
we are right now partnering with SHGs only.
Mm-hmm.
We identify a strong women entrepreneur who will be able to manage the kitchen and manage the workforce also to create those pickles as per our
Right.
recipes, etc. So
Mm-hmm.
once we identify that who will be the lead entrepreneur of which SSG,
Mm-hmm.
and what we start doing is we kind of help them in establishing a dedicated kitchen at Farmgate. Once
Okay.
that is done, there are SOPs we have designed which are Didis have to compulsory follow, like
Okay.
before you enter into the kitchen you have to remove the slippers, you have to wear the PPE equipment,
Right.
and then there are some SOPs around kitchen how it should be. There should be a net covered for the
Mm-hmm.
door and the windows, and very, very simple SOPs,
Right.
so that the manufacturing is compliant with FSSAI requirements, right? So
Mm.
once that is done, we train them on our
Okay.
recipes, and also we provide them raw materials from our
Okay.
own suppliers, so that you get the same taste delivered,
Ah,
right?
right.
So, for example, if you have to make mango pickle, what you will get is mangoes from our supplier,
Mm-hmm.
and then a masala, which is a pre-mix. So that what you have to do it as Didi is, you have to make the pickle, keep it in sun, and then make it ferment for some days, and then send it back to us.
Okay. So see now I am just little confused.
Hmm.
Uh, one side we all knows organization, standardization. For a firm to grow, you need to have a standardized processes, and the taste needs to be standardized. All those things on the one side, and form Didi, we know that if I eat a same pickle from two women, especially in, where I go back to my aunts or mom, and those the taste will differ. There is some sort of difference, right? So how do which one is important? Which side? Because you also need to see when we say we have to preserve the recipes of Didis, and on the other side, as an organization, also need to maintain the standardization, right? So,
Yeah.
how do you manage this?
So for us, we have a dedicated team for food R&D, and
Ah, okay.
what we do is basically come up with the recipe. So we
Ah,
have
okay.
learned some recipes from rural India, but that requires certain updation so that we are
Mm,
able to make those pickles
mm-hmm.
at a scale and it is liked by majority of the customers. For example, we took a chili pickle from a Didi. However, we got a lot of feedback from customers
Ah,
ki the
nice.
quality of tail is not good. The
Mm,
jeera is coming little louder, right?
mm,
So some people might have liked, but some did not like it. So we have to keep on iterating the pickle also, just like a technological product.
right.
Like you release a basic version and just keep on updating based on customer feedback,
Exactly.
right?
Right.
So that's what we do, and besides, we have to ensure the recipe is so intact that
Mhm.
technically that product should be able to survive for an year or so without any use of chemicals. So that
Right.
requires certain degree of food science as well.
Mm,
So, like updating the ingredients, though, like turmeric, oil, salt, these are like natural
right.
preservatives themselves, but finding the right balance so that the pickle is preserved for an year, right? So
Mm.
that comes with a lot of research and science. That's what our team does.
Okay. Nice.
At the same time, standardization is very, very critical for us
Right.
because if customer is not appreciating the product, then the entire value chain fails, right? I
Right.
cannot empower a Didi if I'm not able to sell the product, right? And customer is
Exactly.
not appreciating it.
Exactly.
So that is why the role of controlling the raw material and providing the premixes becomes very important. So today,
Right.
a same mango pickle is kind of manufactured in two different kitchens, one in Aurangabad and one in Pune, and
Okay.
then the taste is same, right?
Okay.
So
Nice.
the reason why we
Interesting.
are able to do that is because of use of
The
premixes and controlling the raw material.
sourcing. Exactly. So can you if you have to tell me one success story of any Didi in your which might inspire all of us, uh, can you just tell us one story?
I think there are so many, honestly.
Okay.
I can go on and on.
Okay.
One of our first of our Didi, Rekha Didi,
Hmm.
she was able to send her daughters to better school after she
Okay.
started earning. She has
Nice.
also, established her own kitchen for our
Hmm.
production.
Hmm.
So she took care of entire construction and everything and led everything, right? And she has
Hmm.
become so popular that every now and then she is invited by top politicians for the awards for the outstanding women leadership, etc.
Nice.
So
Nice.
imagine a Didi. Earlier, she was only able to speak with, let's say, her sasural wale and her
Yes.
maika wale, right? Now the
Right.
entire connections and her ecosystem and network has grown so much that even
Mm.
politicians in the region know her, and so many people
Right.
come and visit her and understand what she is doing, and
Mm.
can they also replicate the same success, things like that.
Very interesting.
Again, one Janisha Didi, I remember, she was not able to
Hmm.
send her children to school only because she didn't have much money to afford
Hmm.
the education. So
Hmm.
she is now able to send her children to school. Another Didi I know, she was a widow, so she was not
Hmm.
very much respected in the family. But after she has become Farm Didi, she is now very much
Hmm.
respected in her family, and that has actually boosted her confidence.
Yeah,
One
that's
Didi
very
bought gold rings for the first time
wow.
because it's very big known fact that women, despite putting a lot of effort, they don't
Right,
own any assets in the society.
right.
She might be working on the land, but she doesn't have the land on her name,
Mm.
right? So right now they are able to buy those assets on her name. One
Right.
Didi I remember, she did not have a smartphone, but because she wanted to download our app, she
Mm.
actually forced her
Ah,
husband to buy her a mobile phone for her. I can go
interesting.
on and on. So I am very
No,
much happy
I,
with
I,
what.
I think we should have one more session only for your babies and their stories.
Yeah, I think
Right.
you should bring more Didis as entrepreneur.
Right. Yeah,
In the video.
exactly. We should have a special uh, interview for Didis, and we want to hear our stories. Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. A fascinating journey, Manjari. And I'm very happy that I am able to be a part of your journey. So from IIM Calcutta campus, working in the hinterlands villages of this country, empowering the women, right? It's a journey I think many women of this country will dream of. Um, a social entrepreneur, when you are creating impact in the grassroots level, right? Again, you have to also think about your business profitability, right?
Yeah.
How are you balancing it?
Okay. So honestly, when I started up and I had to convince my Didis ki I'll be buying this product at this price, right? And so the typical reaction to that was, how people in the village would think of it, how to get the best price, because they also don't know who you are, right? And till when would you be there? Shall I be able to trust you or not trust you, and things like that. So I think I always told them, okay, look, uh, you are a startup. I am also a startup, right? And I have to get at this price because otherwise I'll not be able to sustain my cost of doing marketing activities and things like that. In fact, there was a case when one Didi was not agreeing, and then one day I invited her to participate in the exhibition event. So, for example, what we used to do, we used to sell pickles in housing societies and things like that. So it requires a lot of effort. Like you have to stand for the entire day, maybe without any water or something, and sun over your head. And then she realized how much effort that has gone into it, right? So I think making them become part of this is very important so that they understand why we are buying at a certain price, and then we are
Right.
always looking at scale, right? So typically in rural India, they're habituated of selling things like one time, right? Let's say they sold at
Yeah.
20 kg and that's all, and then they got the best price. But no, we had to make them understand that this is a recurring business for you, right? For over an entire
Right.
year, you will be getting the recurring business. The price has to be at this point so that we are able to sell it at a certain price to the consumers also. And I have to ensure my costs are getting covered, right? So that expectation setting right at the upfront, right? It's very important. So,
Right.
and at the same time, I think the variables that we can control is the raw material price, right? And Didi
Right.
commission is something we don't want to touch. So, how to control the raw material price and control the other variables like marketing spend, logistics spend, right? Those kind of things. So that's something we are working on for sure. So
Okay.
the right communication and expectation setting is very, very important to balance things out.
Right.
Because Didis also
Right.
understand that sustainability, which is very important. She also wants to get regular orders, right? That's her main priority,
Correct.
right?
Right.
Not just one-off event of just buying some pickles from her.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So so I was going through your story on LinkedIn and your websites. Uh, I also saw that because I come from a technology background. I teach information systems. So, what is the role of technology in your business? I see you have used technology in a very nice, innovative way, starting from sourcing till the customer who purchases it. Can you just tell us a bit about that?
So when I started up, and I was very much sure that my vision was whatever business model I create, it has to impact at least 1 million rural women, and that's very tough problem to
Mhm.
solve for. And it was very much clear that in order to scale whatever I'm building to that million, right, I would need technology for sure.
Right.
No business have scaled at a faster rate without the use of technology. So the idea was to understand what are the typical bottlenecks, right, which will hinder my scale, right? So the bottlenecks that we have identified were our ability to identify Didis who will manufacture the food products, right? To train Didis to understand the basic requirements of running a food business, right? to manage the day-to-day transactions with them. Okay, this is your purchase order. You have to produce this pickle. These are the fermentation days and everything, right? The communication, and then managing those KPIs and things like that. So we knew those are the areas. And at the same time, I had to have the complete visibility of supply chain, because at the end it is food product, right? And even if, let's say, while manufacturing, some mosquito cave into food and you will not know, right, which batch it is. So tracking everything, having the visibility of the quality is very, very important, right? So that's why how the technology comes in today. The mobile app that we have built, Didis can get the basic training of food safety hygiene from that. She can pass the examination, and we will know, okay, this Didi has already passed the examination and she's interested to work with us, right? And the other things like providing the quality, right? So the traceability that we have built, very basic one as of now, which kind of tells the customer also, because remember when I was selling to the consumers that it is coming from rural India and everything, how do I make them trust whatever I'm saying is right? It is actually coming from a rural woman. So through the QR code, they can see the journey of the product. Okay, which village it came from, which Didi made it, how is the kitchen looking like. A lot of people have apprehensions about hygiene when food is manufactured in rural India. So showing the kitchen, how it's looking like, the lab test reports, that kind of builds that trust in the consumer's minds also. Okay, whatever the product they are buying, it is actually traditional, authentic, and it has a lot of story behind it. It's not just a simple mass product sold to them, right?
One aspect which I also see when it comes to technology is especially when the kind of sector in which you are operating is also that not everybody has, though now we say that 90 or 100% of the people have access to the technology, not everybody has the capability or the requisite self-efficacy to operate these technologies, right? So how did you come up with, uh, did you address those challenges so that your farm BDs can easily able to use the technology and make it work for them?
Okay, honestly, the penetration of smartphones is incredible in India and rural sector.
Right, right.
And putting something on your WhatsApp story is like new trend in villages.
Right.
And villages are so connected that whatever would happen, everyone would know, okay, this thing happened in the village. Every family would know. They're very much
Right.
connected, right? And they love to stay connected.
Right.
So every home has a smartphone for sure, which is operated by
Right.
everyone.
Right.
And one of the good thing happened during the lockdown was every student had to compulsory join the class on Zoom sessions.
Exactly.
Right, and that was happening in rural India also, especially in the
Yes.
villages where I was working in Maharashtra. I saw every household, they were able to understand how to do a Zoom meeting, even
Right,
mothers,
right, right.
because the children were attending the schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
So during that time, a lot of good apps like Snapchat and Share Chat. Yeah, Share Chat was there. Who would have this local language, good morning messages and things like
Right.
that. So I already saw those things were used like crazy. So I knew that if I had to create a technology for rural women to use, right, the UX should be similar to how WhatsApp looks like and even ShareChat looks like, because these are the apps they already understand, even Zoom also for matter. So it's not that people are not aware, it's just that the product has to be designed especially for them in local languages, UX similar to what they already know, right? So that smartness had to be baked in while developing the app. But use of smartphones is not a new thing in India, honestly. Everyone knows how to do it.
Right.
A lot of rural villages, children, they would make very amazing videos and put it on
Exactly.
WhatsApp, wishing their mummy papa a happy marriage anniversary and things like that.
Right.
Even Makar Sankranti would come, they'll make a video and then put them on WhatsApp story. You'll be surprised that this is a work of some crazy child staying in a village.
Right.
We are
Right.
just
Right.
underestimating them.
Okay. Yeah. Right. So coming back to our superhero stories, we all know that whichever superhero I take, they would have had some challenges while growing up and in the process of becoming a superhero. So, if I ask you, what were some of the biggest hurdles that you have faced and how did you overcome them?
I think there are so many hurdles.
Mhm.
Honestly, it's not an easy thing to do.
Mhm.
I think major hurdle have always been. Uh, I think fundraise is very important for any startup, and especially if you are a social enterprise, people would start devaluing your startup and things like that. But honestly, I've been very lucky because of the fact that I had support from IIM Calcutta Incubation Park and a lot of angels from IIM Calcutta itself. Like a lot of my batchmates have invested in FarmDidi today. So because of, I think the fact that they knew that I was always passionate about this thing and I've been working very actively on this thing, right? So I got good support from IIM Calcutta people, both from the institution and from the alliance and my batchmates. I love them. So that has been a very big hurdle, but somehow I'm able to survive because of that support, right? Another thing, of course, there are challenges with regards to like any startup would find, right? Setting up the operating model, get the right marketing fit, right? Product fit for the consumers and things like that. But I think those things are like, it's like any for any other startup. But I think fundraising, especially for social enterprise, is very tough. And especially right now, when with funding winter is going on, it becomes even tougher. Yeah.
So Manjari, I think means there is a lot of gap, right? Cultural gap, maybe educational gap, and all those things between you, the founders, and also the segment you are working with, right? So you are an MBA, right? And they just do the business from mostly from the intuition, right? And multiple other things.
Yeah.
So, what were the major challenges when you started working with them in the villages, right? And also, we would like to hear how did you overcome those?
Okay. I think when I started working in Maharashtra, one of the major challenges was I was an outsider. I am from Haryana and I was working in Maharashtra, right? So there's an external lady who has come up for, I don't know, from some other place and she wants to work, right? And typically,
Right.
in rural India, what happens is they are not able to trust anyone outsider, anyone from outside, just
Absolutely.
like that. So it's very difficult,
Absolutely.
and because there are so many cases also where people from outside have come up with some stupid marketing scheme and then they have actually thugged them. So I saw many examples already when I was staying. So it is natural, very obvious for them to not trust, right? But then I started living there only, and I stayed for some time, and all the families in the village knew me. I have drunk tea in every house, and it's very common. So it's
Nice.
like building trust. And thanks to my experience working with AT Carney, where I had worked in very diverse projects from Singaporean clients to people from Sweden, from US, from India, and various. So it was the first thing that we are taught is how to adjust in where you're working, right? To understand the culture and how to behave and things like that.
Right.
So I also tried to observe what was happening in village, what are the dynamics and things like that. Who are the major stakeholders in a village, right? So those kind of things. So after I started staying there among them, making food, eating food with them, I started teaching children also. So I think that builds a lot of credibility, and people started trusting me. And then I had support from some senior officials also from MSRLM, from the SHG community. So they had vouched for me that she come up with great credentials and she has been doing this kind of effort for you. You should appreciate. So once you build that trust, na, then they will stand by you for sure. So they will go with length to do something what you are watching for, and things like that. So the building trust is a very, very important factor. Is to be able to build that trust with the community. I think that's something took some time for me, and now also it is not just one time activity. We have to I have to recurringly invest in that, right? Because you cannot work in rural India unless you are able to build that trust. So not only trust for the consumers, trust with the GDs, and I have to continue building. I think that's a very difficult problem. So also another thing was that people were habitual of making food products, just like in kitchens. How would they be doing, right? Let's say they have to make laddus, and Didis know, okay, there's some marriage coming. Everyone will sit and celebrate, and then make laddus, and then they wouldn't know. But now they had to make in food safety compliant manner. Like they cannot sit down; they have to stand, and there has to be a surface where they have to cut those vegetables. So making them learn those kind of things, I think that's how the training comes in the picture. Making them understand, okay, the food business is very different. What you have been doing is just something which is in-house. You just do go by your guts and then make a recipe. Now it is not the case. You have to measure it. We will tell you how to measure it and things like that. Now our Didis are able to use machinery to test the pH levels of the of pickles and everything. But the training becomes very, very important part in the entire process, and it has to be recurring. And then showing the good case in points to other Didis. Okay, look, this is how it has to be done. So if you want to work with us, this is the practice you have to follow, right? So recurring trainings and again is also very important thing, because we were changing the habits, the mindset. We are talking about the India which does not prefer going to toilets, right? Even if government have made toilets for them. So this is a very different case. So training them with our requirements it was something also very difficult.
I
Yes,
assume
so
that. Okay. Yes. Yes. Go on.
yes, so listening to you, I feel like there was always ignition for entrepreneurship and social good in you. So coming from the perspective of student community, like ESL tried to promote entrepreneurship culture among student community in our college. So what are the advices you would you like to give to the budding entrepreneurs who are trying to do a business for social good, or who are just trying to experiment something on those lines?
Okay, so I think one important advice would be just do it. Don't think about it. Otherwise, I think startup is more about action, not about strategic thinking. Honestly, I have also myself spent a lot of time thinking, okay, what can I do? But I think that was all waste of my time. I should have rather executed and see if it would work or not, what will, right? So whatever you're thinking, when just start working towards it. And unless you start working towards it, you will not know what will be the challenges and things like that, right? Another thing for someone who are thinking of considering a social enterprise, I think one thing that they should start thinking is the trust establishment, because there will be a lot of share stakeholders involved, right? And then building that trust becomes very important if you are working with a community or people. Let's say you are working for tribes. In my case, I'm working with rural women. In their case, let's say they want to work with farmers or maybe tribal people or some other communities, right? So how to build trust with them and sustain that trust? I think that's something is very, very important, and you have to start thinking right in the starting itself. So I think those two would be my big suggestions.
So one more question. Means I'm sure since you have grown so much and you have tried to change the habits of age-old habits. Uh, did you think you failed somewhere? And if it is, what were the lessons that you would have learned in those failures as well?
I think in my first, when I started doing my first pilot, I remember uh, I was not, despite giving a lot of warnings, etc., they were not able to do it. So I had to decide not to work with them, my first
Mhm.
group, because I had to be very strict about it, because whatever food that I'm producing, right, it
Right.
has to be safety compliant. What
Mhm.
if there's a child who eats it and he gets sick?
Exactly.
What's the point of doing everything? No? There's no point of women empowerment and things like that. So so I had to take some strict actions as well, right? So I'm glad I failed in my first group itself, because that also set the expectation for the other groups also. Okay, they will not work if you are not abiding by the rules, right? And if you are becoming an entrepreneur, you have the accountability of all those areas, right? So it's not me, I as an entrepreneur, but my Didi as an entrepreneur, and that's why the selection, and we do a lot of due diligence check before we select our Didis. We also check things like how are they maintaining the hygiene in their home itself, right? Typically, we have seen will be always some women who would be always very cleanliness conscious, right? So we would prefer working with them. We have done some lot of due diligence checks, and it's not easy to become an entrepreneur Didi with FarmDidi now. So we do a lot of checks so that the person who is making it is making it in the right manner, right? So those things, and I'm glad I failed initially.
Yeah. So coming to the larger context, if you see that there is one side you have so many startups who are making, at least on papers, billions of valuations, right? On the other side, we have social entrepreneurs who are thinking of a social cause and working towards that, right? And if you see, if I ask you that, you see, where does social entrepreneurship heading in the next decade? And how it might impact especially given the social, what kind of impact it might have in the coming decade? What would be your views on that?
Okay, so I think this is a great time now. People are talking about SDG goals,
Right.
and this ESG compliance is becoming
Yeah.
talk of the town. In
Mm-hmm.
fact, customers also want to understand more about the brands. How
Mm-hmm.
are they impacting people, planet, and community, right? You would see any other big brand. For example, I saw this IKEA. IKEA would talk a lot about the good work that they do and things like that. So people are building brand about those kind of things. So I'm glad that we are in this changing times, and I'm sure in decades to come this will evolve more, and people will be actually thinking about, okay, what is the impact this brand has, this product has, right? If you use this pan, you are using, I don't know, the carbon emissions are reduced by XYZ percentage. Or if you are using this spoon instead of plastic spoon, you would have saved this much of, right? So I think this is becoming talk of the town, and I'm glad consumers are also becoming aware. So I think the major themes are always around people, planet, uh, um, and then I think there was one more P I forgot. I'm sorry,
Profit, profit, people.
yeah, then I think I should remember it. But I think major is still people and planet. So of course, planet. I think there are a lot of themes coming around planet as well, like plastic, anti-plastic, eco-friendly, and things like that. Right. In fact, maybe there will be a I don't know, a search engine that will reduce carbon emissions, or that will have lower carbon emissions than what Google is offering, right? I think these things will come up in shape of very well everywhere, and that will become a key differentiator for other brands and other competing brands as well. So I think this is a great time to be working towards these kind of things. Another thing I personally feel, water is something kind of becoming a major challenge. So would love to see if something on water conservation to be done. I've seen people fighting over water in rural hinterland, and whenever any pandemic comes, I think the biggest impact goes to bottom of pyramid. So I think, and I've seen people in distress due to water non-availability. So I think water is also becoming a huge problem in some time to come. I think if there's some other area I would love to work is towards is basically water conservation. That's also
Oh,
going to become a major problem soon.
right, right, right. So, coming back to the Farm Didi, uh, what next for Farm Didi? So, where are
I
we
think we are
heading?
just starting up. Honestly, I think you started with a long speech, and I was a little embarrassed also because we haven't done much. We are just starting up, and
Right.
I think the entire journey we are just on day zero for us, honestly. So, so we are just starting up, and there's a lot of things to be done.
Okay. So,
Yeah, we haven't done
what is in
much.
the horizon? Anything interesting?
I think we are become a community of around 1,500 women, and
Yes.
we almost 7 SHGs are getting regular income, and I think this is a very low number
Right.
to as compared to the mission, which is 1 million, right?
Right.
So I think the first thing would be how do I get first 1,000 women getting regular income through us? That would
Mhm.
be my next milestone in a year to see. And
Right.
then the 10 lakh is a very big goal. So I have to figure out a lot of innovative ways to go down to that number.
Interesting. Right. So, uh, if I have to ask you that, if you have to envisage the future of social entrepreneurship, right? Uh, how will that look like?
Future of social entrepreneurship.
Right.
Yeah, I would love to see a lot of IMCs doing that.
Yeah.
I think there are very few organizations who have succeeded in social entrepreneurship as compared to traditional entrepreneurship, right? Very few examples. Even when I was researching, I got very less numbers. But I'm glad today is a world which is very different, who is thinking about ESG compliance and things like that, like I mentioned, right? So I think there will be time this ESG compliance would become top of the town. And like I mentioned, every product will be seen and compared to what impact they are creating, right? And so I think the future is amazing for social entrepreneurship. And and then there are a lot of diverse areas, people, planet, and of course water. Please consider that. Again, it comes in the planet, but I would want to put it differently because it's a very different problem, difficult problem. So yeah, I think a lot of so in order to develop something like this, we have to see a lot of other VC firms as well in the domain. So that ecosystem had to be developed. I think Aurangabad Incubation Park has its vision of again centered around social entrepreneurship. So I would like to see more other incubation just focusing on that, right? There are government policies also which have come up, but I think it's the process and everything is so difficult that I think government has to literally little work on the policy part also so that the ecosystem gets developed. There is Startup India seed fund and everything, but can there be a social Startup India seed fund? I don't know, something around that, right? So I think if it's all shaped well, I think that will be amazing, incredible future in years to come. And I'm glad today people are thinking about this, but tomorrow I think it will be a need, a big need from consumer side and from the policy side as well in years to come.
Very interesting. So you brought in now the need from the government side and also from the people like you and me who might be the end consumer who would be
Yeah.
doing what we may need to do. Yeah.
Yep.
Right. Right. So when you are telling about we are just in day zero, मुझे आपकी you recited few lines uh, in the distinguished alumni meet at the end of end of your speech.
Okay.
वो याद आ रहा था कि so if you remember you can recite that. I was
Actually, my husband wrote it honestly at the
oh
last moment,
so
and I don't remember it.
I forgot to ask. Can you tell us about your how did you guys meet? Means I know he is your co-founder, and
Yeah.
how did that part? We mostly focused on FarmDidi. We forgot
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, we met in the campus. We were
Oh,
both in the badminton team as well.
okay. Okay.
He was my PGP 1 and I was his PGP 2.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we had very good friendship, and because we were part of the sports council and all, so we stayed in touch as well. And he knew that I was working on something like this, so he was always like, "Tell me, I also want to join. This is something I want to work on." He was also looking for avenues where he can work towards Indian development, towards the development sector especially. So he found this amazing opportunity, so he joined as well. And then yeah, I think I couldn't have known anyone else far better than him, because we were working in startup. Because when you are in startup, like you literally fight on literally every other thing, and you spend a lot of time also with each other. So I think I'm glad I found him.
Very interesting. So yeah, so I think these are some of the things which I thought of knowing. Any other uh, questions, Anshul and Nawami?
No, it's
So
great to
Manjari,
hear from her about the story and the journey. And I think it's something which will inspire many entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs who want to enter the field of social entrepreneurship. So it's great to hear about the journey. Thanks from my side.
Thanks, I'm sure.
So particularly, Manjari, I am someone who works in the especially technology for development at the base of the pyramid and sector, and also someone who teaches uh, digital startup as a course.
Right.
So, means I had read your story even while I was doing PhD. Means I was just finishing off
Oh,
my PhD, and uh, especially hearing the story from you and the kind of impact the uh, the impact that you are envisaging and the kind of challenges that the people at the base of pyramid face, particularly to find the market, and how a platform like FarmDidi is trying to be the intermediary that can actually enable them to discover the market and reach to the people who are actually in need of those kind of products. So the kind of work you guys are doing is amazing. And uh, uh, आपने बोला था कि मीन्स you are just starting the journey towards reaching your goal, and and I assume that means I wish from our side as IMC and IMC Innovation Park that whatever might be your goal and the goal that especially the kind of goal that you have, we all have our support as well as the kind wishes to that you reach there pretty soon and to accelerate and whatever challenges you face, may you have the strength to overcome all those things. And we wish you a very warm good luck in that direction. And thank you so much for taking your time out and being here.
thank you. I really appreciate it, and thanks for organizing everything. And I'm really humbled to have been invited here, and thanks for sharing some good words about FarmDidi as well. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.